Hi, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Whitney Sheridan, and welcome to today's webinar on the Accelerated Integrated Undergraduate Graduate Program, IUG, the BS in Health Policy and Administration, HPA, Master of Public Policy, MPP degree. Welcome, and I'm the Director of Communications with the School of Public Policy. I'll be moderating today's discussion along with our presenters who I'd like to introduce now. We have Stephen Maslowski. He's our Enrollment and Advising Manager. Welcome, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Whitney.
We also have Caitlin Reber. Caitlin started in the Master of Public Policy degree as one of our Accelerated Integrated Undergraduate Graduate Program student and is now a full-time graduate student. Welcome, Caitlin. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Also with us is our Director of Professional Development and Student Engagement, Catherine Baumgardner. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us.
Nice to be here, Whitney.
Also with us is Mark Seagay, Professor of Health Policy and Administration and Professor in charge of the undergraduate program with Health Policy and Administration. Hi, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you who've joined us today. We are excited to have you with us. And before I turn things over to our panelists, I want to let you know that if you have any questions at any time throughout today's discussion, please use the Q&A button or the chat window at any time, because that's what we're here for, to answer your questions. So don't be shy, ask the questions anytime throughout the presentation. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to give you an overview of what the MPP, or the Master of Public Policy program, is. We're going to talk about the Health Policy and Administration Master of Public Policy Integrated Undergraduate Graduate Program, which is quite a mouthful, so you'll hear us refer to that as the IUG program quite frequently. We'll discuss who is suited for the program. We're going to talk about curriculum. We'll discuss career options and income expectations for grads, as well as some of the unique support programs that we provide to the students. We'll break down the application process and requirements. We'll also talk about who should pursue the master's at Penn State. And of course, we're going to take your questions throughout the presentation. And again, I'm going to keep encouraging you to use that Q&A button throughout the presentation. But first, I want to give you the latest updates. Now, you guys are all Penn State students, so I know you're familiar with what's going on, but I want Stephen to give us some of the latest. Stephen?
Thank you, Whitney. So obviously, this semester is operating a little bit differently than any semester that we've had before. The university is still making decisions regarding how courses and the university is going to operate in spring semester. Most likely it'll continue in some similar fashion as to this, but if you are looking for any updates regarding spring semester, any future semesters as we continue to go through the pandemic, this is the place to go for all up-to-date information.
Great, thanks so much, Stephen. Now, I want to give a little overview of exactly what the Master of Public Policy degree is. Stephen, tell us exactly what the Master of Public Policy degree program is, the MPP degree is. Who is this program for?
So the MPP program, or Master of Professional Public Policy, is a professional master's degree that is designed to provide students with the training and skill sets to go out and operate in careers where they will be able to design, adopt, implement, and evaluate public policies across all different spectrums and fields. In terms of who this degree is for, I always like to talk to students about, if you are really interested in developing, implementing, or impacting change on some level, then a Master of Public Policy is a great fit for you. Students that come out of this professional degree program are set up to be change and difference makers in whatever role or career field that they choose to go into.
So I want to bring Caitlin Reber, our MPP class of 2021, cohort class of 2021 student into the discussion, because you started as one of our IUG students. What made you decide to pursue the MPP?
I think my reason for pursuing MPP was twofold. First, kind of what Stephen just said. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as an undergrad. I was kind of between law school and an MPP degree, and I just knew I wanted to help contribute to making change, positive change in the world. So I attended an info session for the MPP degree, and I felt like it was going to be a good fit because I think an MPP degree is very versatile. You can do a lot with it. You're not really stuck to one path, unlike law school. And I wasn't 100% sure that that's what I wanted to do. So those were really the two main reasons that I pursued this degree.
Excellent. So today we're talking about the Accelerated Integrated Undergraduate Graduate HPA MPP program for Penn State students. Stephen and Mark, I want to bring you into discussion. Tell us a little bit about exactly how this program works for HPA students.
Okay, I can start.
Great.
So for students in HPA that are interested in pursuing this degree, it's similar to other IUGs, where in your fourth year of study, you'll take courses, and in this case, we have some that are defined already, and then there are some that you'll have some flexibility in choosing. But in that fourth year of study, 12 of those credits are going to count for both your undergraduate degree and your graduate degree, and that'll effectively reduce the amount of time that you will have to spend beyond the earning your undergraduate degree. And so, we encourage people to think about making a decision like this early, because you do have to be a bit planful about that fourth year. So if you're, a freshman or a sophomore, now's the time to sort of really think through. So sit with your academic advisor and plot out the courses that you need to take for the HPA side. And then if you were to apply and be accepted into the MPP, what courses, what your senior year is going to look like. And so there are a number of courses within HPA that are at the 400 level, which we've identified would count for the MPP. And there are courses that you'll actually take in that fourth year that are offered through the School of Public Policy and our MPP courses.
Excellent. Stephen?
Yeah, so just to build on that, one of the great things about the IUG is that we are going to be able to share courses between both of your degree records. So as Mark was talking about, there's going to be 400 level classes that you're already going to be taking that can be shared up to the graduate record and count as some of your specialization electives. And it really is important to start planning with your undergraduate advisor as soon as you can if you are interested in this type of program, because there is a lot that goes into planning out your senior year with the dual enrollment. You want to make sure that you do have enough space in your schedule to accommodate the addition of graduate level coursework, because even though we are sharing 4 courses between both degrees, you will still need to take some just straight graduate level courses that are only going to count towards the Master of Public Policy, so that you are prepared for the internship, which you will be required to do, and also just so that you are not overwhelmed in year 2. And so this is why it's important to start having conversations with your undergraduate advisor and setting up appointments with me as early as possible, so that you can start working with us to game plan out how you can set this up so that you can still meet the requirements of your undergraduate degree while also being able to stay on top of the beginning of your graduate school career.
So let's look at some of how these courses do count toward the degree. For the undergraduate credits, they do count towards the MPP degree. I know this is of concern quite frequently to the students that their undergraduate credits do count towards that degree, and how the elective specialization credits count, and how that all works. Can we talk a little bit more in detail about that?
Yeah, so the way that it'll work out is two of those 400 level health policies that you will take, which could either be towards the end of your junior year or during your senior year, can count up as two of the 4 specialization electives that are required as part of the MPP program. And so that builds in automatically some coursework towards what your policy specialization will be. The other 2 courses that are shared have to be at the graduate level, and usually will be some of the classes that you take through the School of Public Policy. That leaves additional 2 elective specialization courses. Now, depending on what can or cannot fit into your schedule, you also could have the option to take specific 500 level HPA classes that could be dual counting as well, and those will fill in for elective specialization also. The big key takeaway for IUG programs is that you have to have those 4 dual counting courses, with 2 at the undergrad level and 2 at the graduate level. And that's where working with both sets of advisors is what you want to be doing to make sure that everything lines up for you.
Excellent. So let's talk about the curriculum and some of the specializations, which we were talking about with a lot of the core specializations and those electives. But I know, Mark, you and I have talked about how some of the specializations that we offer in particular might be of interest to HPA students. Tell us a little bit about what do you see the HPA students pursuing in particular? We have several specializations that we offer. We do allow you to choose an existing specialization, but we allow students to design a specialization. But I know you have some thoughts on what might be particularly of interest to HPA students.
Well, I mean, I think there are a number of these specializations that would be an HPA student could naturally flow into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in their course of study, they have required courses that deal with population health, which could, lead into the gender equity and policy specialization if they have that interest. We have not only the population health course, we have a new course on serving diverse populations at the 400 level. Obviously, the health policy, they have a 300 level course that they're required to take in health policy. We have a 400 level course on health policy and politics, which is more of looking at the political aspects of the policymaking process, which could certainly flow into either the health policy. We have courses that deal with the safety net. Catherine used to teach that for us, which would, raises up interest in both racial justice and equity or social policy. We have a number of international health courses that they can take at the 400 level. So the international policy could be of interest. Information technology, which is a huge area within healthcare. So in the specializations coming out of the HPA background, there are a number of things that a student could naturally sort of gravitate towards. So they should feel restricted that they're only going to focus on health policy. There are other things that they will have in their background that they can then build upon. And those are just a couple that, just sort of immediately leap off the page to me.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen, why don't you explain how this works for our students? Because this is one of the unique things that our program really offers.
Absolutely. So with the setup of the IUG with the BS and HPA, as Mark was saying, there's a lot of courses that can help lead you towards these different specializations that we offer and the flexibility within those. So in an ideal situation for HPA students that are coming into the IUG with the MPP, if we do share 2 of those 400 level classes up, you do still have 2 specialization elective slots left as part of the degree program on the master's side, and you will have flexibility there to pair courses in a lot of those areas that Mark was talking about. So you don't have to feel like you only will do a specialization in HPA by doing the IUG. Obviously, if you want to, that we have those courses available. That is an option to you, but you do still have flexibility as part of the way that this IUG program is designed. And then in terms of how the rest of the curriculum works for students, in that senior year where you are in dual enrollment, the goal from the School of Public Policy is to make sure that you're taking 2 of our statistics courses. So in fall, you would take our PPOL 503, which is Statistics for Public Policy 1. And then in spring, you would follow that up with 506, which is Statistics for Public Policy 2. We also ideally, depending on what's available in terms of space in your schedule, would like you to take the public policy process, which is 801, and then try to get you an additional PPOL class, whether it's public finance and budgeting, organizational leadership and management, something else to kind of make sure that you are getting at least a decent amount of the core curriculum prior to jumping into the internship after you graduate from undergrad. And then when you come back in your final year, when you are just strictly enrolled in the School of Public Policy as a graduate student, we will just work with you on completing any of the outstanding degree requirements that you have left. So that's essentially how the curriculum sets up in most situations for IUG students, and how it'll work for most of you if you do enter into this program.
Excellent. So let's talk about careers. I want to first talk to Catherine, and then I want to follow up with Mark, because I know Mark has a lot of ideas on how this program can benefit HPA students. Catherine, we often talk about how, and we do say that Master Public Policy program is a professional degree program, but I want to ask you about the employment opportunities for MPP grads. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. I think we're in an incredibly exciting time for policy. I think the sky's a bit the limit. And all you have to do is look around in the world that's happening today to know that policy is involved in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And careers really are available at all levels of government, nonprofit organizations, lobbying, consulting. And I'm particularly intrigued with this combination of health policy and public policy. Having a background in health policy, in fact, I just had an internship come across my desk this morning. That is a think tank in DC that's looking for people with that combined experience of how does healthcare work, which is what you get from the management and leadership side of an of a health policy degree, and then do you make changes to the framework within which healthcare operates, which is the policy side. So really powerful combination there.
And then one thing that, well, before I get to that, I want to talk to Mark. Mark and I have talked about this already. When we first started working on this option for HPA students, I wanted to talk to Mark about how the MPP can benefit the HPA degree in specific career areas. How can this advance our HPA student career goals and open up more career opportunities? Mark, talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think when people think about a degree in public policy, they typically think about government work or the not-for-profit advocacy or think tank, consulting groups. And I can tell you the students that graduate from HPA that have this interest in policy, that's typically where they think about going. But the truth of the matter is that healthcare is a policy-based profession. It's constantly changing because policy changes. Medicare makes a different ruling. Well, that makes a ripple effect throughout the healthcare delivery system. And so what we're seeing is that major health plans, major healthcare systems, major providers, they're all setting up within their organizations little policy groups to better understand how these changes are going to impact the delivery. And so what's really going to be unique about this IUG is that you're going to have a group of graduates that are really steeped in, as Catherine talked about, the administration of how these programs actually operate and understanding sort of the different financial revenue streams. Layer on top of that, sort of the additional expertise in being able to do a program evaluation or to do an implementation study or to, understand if if the Supreme Court strikes down the Affordable Care Act, what does that mean for us as an organization? So we're seeing a lot more of what I would think of somewhat more untraditional outlets for policy-oriented students in the healthcare sector, and it's only going to, increase in the years to come as we make big decisions about Medicare, about insurance coverage, and the like.
Now,
Mark, and I want to just build on that for a second, because I think you're absolutely right. And when I think about policies that we've seen happen in the past, and we've, being on the administrative side and having to implement many of those policies, I often ask myself, well, how come the people in policy don't really understand the way things work? And this combined degree really gives, I think, the student this natural ability to see both sides and to really bring informed thought into the process of change. So I think it's a great combo.
So Caitlin, you're not an HPA IUG. This is a brand new IUG program for us, but what are your career goals? I know what they are, but I would love for you to share them with the class, so to speak. If you could talk a little bit about that, because some of that is on this slide.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going into the MPP degree, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what I would get out of an MPP degree. But I kind of just went for it because it seemed really versatile, which was great because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had an internship with RAIN, which was a nonprofit, this summer. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm thinking that my first kind of career goal for my policy career would definitely be in the nonprofit area. I really enjoyed the experience. I would love to do some policy advocacy work in some capacity.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing that right there in the nonprofit arena, and it sounds like your work with RAIN really kind of solidified that as your goal, which is fantastic. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the work you're doing with Catherine on the capstone project, but I think that's what you're working on next is the capstone experience, and that might be with RAIN as well. So let's talk a little bit about, you're thinking about the career, but what does that mean as far as, is the degree worth it? Will this boost the earning power? Catherine, this is something everyone wants to know when they're thinking about pursuing an advanced degree.
Sure.
Right?
And as everyone should, what is the return on investment, and will my degree be worth the investment I'm making in it? And given that we're talking to an integrated undergraduate prospective group, when you think about the IUG, you're essentially achieving a master's degree with 5 years of school versus the typical 6. So you're shaving a year off. So what you see here in terms of earnings is even, there's a differential with MPP grads in a more traditional public policy role, where they earn about $19,000 more than their counterparts with bachelor's degrees. But when you begin to think about the reach across so many different industries, that's why you see this pay range of 40 to 125, and I would argue it's even more than that. The medians for more traditional public policy tend to be around 75 to 80,000 a year. But again, if you're in a for-profit or you're in a large corporate setting, it can certainly go north of the 125,000 a year. So what's really important here is that the return on investment is pretty quick.
And here's a question for Caitlin, just when I was about to remind everyone that we would love to hear from our audience with questions. Caitlin, is being a college senior and a first-year graduate student manageable? Were you overwhelmed?
It definitely is manageable. It was something I was really nervous about starting grad classes during my senior year of undergrad. And while grad classes are just very different from undergrad classes, don't let that overwhelm you. It's easy to get overwhelmed, I would say, but as long as you manage your time well, if you put in the work, you'll be fine. I don't think grad classes are unmanageable. They're just different. Like the workload is different. I would say it's like more reading heavy, and I know we're in Zoom classes right now, but it's a lot more projects and things like that as opposed to like small little assignments. But it's definitely manageable as long as you put in the work and are able to manage all your time.
And did you find that having been already at Penn State, it was a nice transition into the graduate work because you already knew the lay of the land, you knew where the resources were, you knew a lot of the people? Did that kind of make it easier?
Absolutely. I think already being at Penn State definitely made it the transition a little bit easier for really all of those reasons. I think especially knowing Penn State already and kind of the vibe here, I think I would have been a lot more nervous going into a school that I was brand new at. I also knew some of the people in my cohort already, so that was helpful. And I'm sure other IUG students might have the same experience. They might recognize some people, so it makes it a little bit easier to get to know everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure if the HPA students probably have seen each other in a lot of classes, so coming into the cohort together would be a great experience to see those friendly faces. So let's talk about some of the unique resources that the program provides. This is something that our Master of Public Policy program does that we don't see a lot with some other, we might not see with some other graduate programs. And I'm going to throw this over to Catherine because this is something that she works on a lot. So Catherine, tell us about some of those resources.
Sure, Whitney. Our primary goal for our MPP students is that they leave the degree job ready so that they have the opportunity to experience what it's like to work in the policy sphere. And that experience of applying classroom to the practice, if you will, occurs in a couple of different ways. It formally occurs with the internship program, which is between our first and second year. So our students just finished their summer internships, our first wave of students. And what happens in the internship is it's that opportunity to look broadly across an organization and have experiences across an organization so that you really get a sense of how does policy work? How does the organization navigate getting their idea accepted to the constituent base that it serves? And importantly, how do you get your hands on some of the projects? The internship is a wonderful place for our students to network, to try ideas, and in some cases to say, you know, that internship was great, but I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And so it's a really good place for students to kind of discern to validate interest as well as to discern what they might want to do going forward. The internship also serves as a springboard to a capstone project. It's not a requirement that the capstone occurs in the internship organization, but it's really nice when it's able to, because what the capstone does is it goes deep. So if you think about the internship being broad, the capstone is deep. And when I say deep, what I mean by that is the capstone really focuses on an organizational project, something that the student can lead and work with a preceptor in the organization to see through from as much start to finish as possible in the time frame that we have to do it. We'll also evolve our capstones to be group projects where groups of our students will work with host organizations to serve in a consultative role, analyzing policy. So the internship and the capstone are pivotal to helping our students to be job ready. Now, they don't do the internship and the capstone in isolation. Those are built into courses that are supported by myself, and in the case of the capstone by our by Chris Whitko, who's our assistant director of the program. And these involve goal setting with preceptors and the organization, mid and final check-ins, as well as check-ins on a regular basis to make sure that the project is on track, as well as to provide insights around career coaching. There are times when people are in an organization and run into some sticky issues. Well, how do I have a hard conversation with my supervisor? Or I see a decision that got made and I don't understand, when everything said that the decision should go one way, why it went the other. So sort of helping the student to tease out the politics of what might be happening organizationally. So that's a lot of what's happening during the internship and capstone process. We then support all of that with career coaching. And the career coaching is based on Gallup's strengths-based strengths finder tools, as well as cover letter, resume, application packet preparation support, as well as interview support. We had all of our internships pivot to virtual this summer, and I'm pleased to say we placed everyone and kept everyone placed through the process. And I think a part of that was building virtual support for our students. So we had a virtual interview guide, helped them to learn how to set the stage for the interview process, and did a lot of dry runs, packet reviews, and application support as well in the process. We also then frame and support our program with leadership development and professional development. So we do have an elective leadership course that's offered for our students, as well as a robust professional development speaker series. So we have one piece of our speaker series focused on individual development. So in other words, what career skills do I need in order to be successful in my career? And those are presented by myself, by alumni, and other friends of the program. We just had one a week and a half ago about leading change and how do you navigate change in an organization as a new graduate. And our upcoming program next week is all about mentoring and the power of mentoring, why it's important and how to find one, and then eventually how to be a good mentor when you're later on in your career. A second piece of our professional development focuses on careers and how understanding how alums, and again, friends of the program, found their way to where they are. And for all of us on this call, we know that it's rarely a straight line to how we got to where we are today. And the power of being able to talk through that and perhaps find an alum or a friend of the program who might end up being a great mentor for our students is also part of that process. Our faculty then are creating a series of translational programs, if you will, where they take their research and talk about it not only in academic terms, but in what are the implications to policy in the world. So very robust program that is supporting our students to achieve the overall goal of making sure you're career ready when you leave the program.
I want to ask Caitlin, we do have some questions coming in, and I want to remind everyone that we are taking your questions. But before that, I want to ask Caitlin, you mentioned that you had your internship with RAIN. Tell us a little bit about that. And obviously it was a great experience for you because you're pursuing more work with them. So tell us a little bit about what you did with them.
Sure. So RAIN is the largest anti-sexual violence organization in the US. They do policy work, they do a lot of public education, a lot of trainings, things like that. I was in their communications department, but I was still able to incorporate a lot of policy stuff into my internship experience, which was really wonderful. All the communications staff and my supervisor really just wanted to work with us to make sure that we got what we wanted out of the experience. So I learned a lot about RAIN as an organization and nonprofits in general. I got to do a lot of diverse work. I've never really saw myself in a communication setting, but I think it was a great experience, and I feel more well-rounded now that I know kind of how other departments work and not just like what the policy team does, but it was really wonderful.
Great. And we look forward to seeing what comes next when you're working with them. So we do have a question from Laura. Would this be possible for a World Campus student? So Mark, maybe? Is that Mark and Stephen?
Well, certainly within the HPA side, we operate.
I know you, yeah.
You can take the undergraduate degree entirely online. And of the courses on the HPA side that can be double counted, I think not all of them are currently offered on the World Campus, but it's not to say that they wouldn't be in the future, but they certainly, there are, I think about half of them currently are offered on the World Campus, 400 level.
Okay. Okay. Stephen?
So the one major issue in terms of doing an IUG through the World Campus undergrad program is that none of our courses in a normal timeframe setting outside of the pandemic are offered remotely. Obviously, right now with the pandemic, a lot of our classes are being offered remotely, but whenever that ends, the majority of the courses and the bulk of the classes that you would need to take in that year of dual enrollment would be strictly campus based. So in order to do an IUG through the HPA undergrad on World Campus, you could still be a World Campus student, but you would have to then make sure that you were in University Park to take the couple of MPP courses that you would have to take as part of it, and then transition. There would be a way we could potentially figure it out, but you would have to physically be in University Park for that year of dual enrollment so that you could attend the graduate level coursework that we require as part of the shared curriculum.
And what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to us. Our general email address is publicpolicy@psu.edu. Stephen is the one who answers that email. So anytime you'd want to set up an appointment with him to go through those types of questions, feel free to email him. And we'll provide that information again later. You can also visit our website, publicpolicy.psu.edu. So let's talk a little bit about requirements. So Mark and Stephen, these are specific to the HPA IUG, because I know there are a lot of differences between programs. So let's talk a little bit about this. So, and then we'll get into how to apply.
Yeah, so the way that the requirements are set up for the IUG with the BS and HPA is a little similar to some of the other IUGs, but there are some differences. So if you are an undergrad student, we would be looking for you to have a minimum of a 3.2 GPA at the time of application. You will need to get 2 letters of recommendation. One of them does have to be from the faculty of the Department of Health Policy Administration. The other one does still have to be a faculty letter, can be from both. And then you would need to write a statement of purpose. 1,500 words usually comes out to about 2 pages. And that's your chance to tell us your story about who you are, what you're looking to do, what your motivations are behind pursuing this joint degree program, maybe what you want to do after you graduate. It's really your chance to let us know more about who you are and your motivations. There are no GRE or any other graduate exam requirements as part of the application process.
Okay. And we always encourage students to go to their advisor in their home department prior to starting this process.
Yep.
Mark, is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I just remember that students, you know, after they can apply sometime after they've completed 60 credits. So again, think early about it, talk with your advisors, and sort of get yourself prepped before the application process.
Okay.
We'll go to the application, then I'll talk about the time frame. Sorry, Whitney, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay, we're going to talk about how to apply, and we do have a couple questions coming in. One is, can you complete the IUG for HPA at a Commonwealth campus, or must it be taken in normal circumstances at University Park?
I think Steve answered that with the...
Yeah, I think you did. And then there's a follow-up. If I decide just to do a Master's of Health Admin that is not integrated, must that be completed at University Park? Mark?
You mean to take the Master's in Health Administration course? Yeah, that would have to be taken either at University Park, or the Harrisburg campus offers the MHA.
Okay, great. Excellent. So we've talked about the program. How do you apply? I did mention the first step should be going to your advisor, but let's reiterate that once again.
So I'll
Can't
walk
say it
through the
enough.
whole, yep, I'll walk through the whole kind of timeline and process
Do it.
right here.
Let's
for
do
everyone.
it.
So obviously, as Whitney said, the first step should be to go and talk to your undergraduate academic advisor, because they will know best what you have left to complete on the undergraduate side in terms of your requirements and remaining credits, and be able to let you know if this is a good opportunity and will actually fit within your remaining schedule. It'll also allow both of you to start game planning for how to set up your coursework so you can fit in the additional requirements that come with being in an IUG program. And so that's step one. Step two is to reach out to me after you've done that and set up an appointment with me so we can go to sit down and talk about everything and really make sure that this is going to fit and work for you and start finalizing that overall game plan. In terms of application time frame, as Mark said, it's going to essentially depend on when you hit that 60 credit total, where the university views you as being a junior. But most students will apply at the end of their fall semester of their junior year, or whatever your first semester of your junior year is. So obviously some people are on different timelines. So if your first semester of your technical junior year is spring, that at the end of that semester, that's when you'd be looking to apply to the IUG program. Same thing with fall. But the reason I say that is because it gives you enough time to meet with your advisor, to hopefully have taken some courses enough within the HPA program that you have developed relationships with faculty that you can secure the letters of recommendation that are necessary for admission to the program.
That's a good point.
Yep. And then when it also helps boost your GPA, hopefully, so that you are at that 3.2 minimum or higher. And then once that semester is done, that's when you really want to make sure you submit everything. Ideally, if everything works out, you would want to have your application done by February of spring semester. And the reason I say that is because that gives us enough time as the admissions committee to review everything, make sure that it's all good, and we will admit you into the program. But that way we can have you admitted before the beginning of March, which is when, as you all know, scheduling for most juniors and seniors starts at the beginning of March or middle of March in spring semester. And so we want to have you admitted in the program before you have to schedule for fall semester. That way we can all meet, your undergrad advisor, me, you, and make sure that we have everything lined up so that when scheduling opens for you, you can get everything that you need and everything set up. Now, obviously, if that doesn't work and that timeline doesn't line up for you, it's not the end of the world. We will still sit down and we will figure it all out. We just might have to make some edits to your fall schedule after you've set it up. But that's essentially the general timeline, ideal timeline, I should say, to getting everything set up to get you into the IUG program. To apply, you'll either go to gradschool.psu.edu, or you can go to our website and click on the apply button, and it'll direct you to that website as well. One of the key things to remember as you are applying is on your first page, there is going to be a box, and Whitney has it up there on the slide, that is going to ask you if you are applying as part of an integrated program or joint degree program. You want to make sure that you click that box, because that'll notify the graduate school that you aren't going to have a completed undergraduate transcript because you're still an undergrad student who is doing this integrated program. If you forget to click the box, it's not the end of the world. We just have to let the graduate school know that you're not accidentally applying early. And that's how the whole application process and timeline works for the IUG students.
And I can just say, as someone who's been in meetings with folks like Stephen and some of our other faculty, use your faculty and your advisors as resources, because they will get you through the process, and use them. They will help you every step of the way, and that's what they're here for. So definitely use those resources that you have. Again, we're here for questions, so please don't be shy. Let's talk about why you should choose Penn State. You're already here, you've chosen it. We've talked about the MPP degree, but you're an undergrad. Why would you choose to stay here for your master's degree? Caitlin, I'm going to ask you, we talked about why you decided to pursue the MPP because you were thinking about going to law school. But what made you decide to want to stay here at Penn State for another year?
I think for me, for undergrad, I definitely wanted to be at a big school. I just wanted that experience. But I think for grad school, it's really nice to be in a smaller program, which the MPP at Penn State is definitely a smaller program. I think the first cohort of students that I'm in is like 13 or 15 students. So I've really gotten the opportunity to get to know all the other students really well, and all of the faculty and staff in the program too, which has been really awesome. I think that in all our classes, even though it's on Zoom right now, we get a lot of one-on-one time with the professors if we need it, because it is a smaller program, which is really nice for grad school. It's important to get to know them and just to be able to do better in your classes. There are also the research positions, which are really interesting and great experience. I have been doing research with Dr. Lillard Richardson when I started last fall, and I still am. And that's been really wonderful. He's interested in like state differences in various issues. And I was a criminology major, so he's kind of giving me projects that pique my interest as well. So I've been doing a lot of marijuana policy research and helped him with some COVID policy research as well. So
yeah, I want to point out he specializes in health policy. So yeah, a lot of those research positions are available. Stephen, do you want to, before we get to more of the detail, the nuts and bolts of some of the reasons why you should choose to stay at Penn State, Stephen, maybe talk a little bit about those research positions and how how those students are selected.
Absolutely. So we have research positions that are connected to every single one of the faculty members that we have within the School of Public Policy that we do fill with students from the program. We also have some essentially like staff assistant based positions that support Whitney, myself, and our assistant director, Chris, as well, with different projects that support how the school operates. All of them are paid in at an hourly rate for 10 to 20 hours a week. And any student that applies and is admitted to the program is automatically considered for all of those positions, whether it be a research position or for essentially a staff support position within the school. And the reason that we have it set up as an hourly rate is so that you can use the money for whatever you need. So you'll get it on a biweekly basis, and you can apply it to tuition, food, rent, whatever you might need. And like I said, there's nothing additional at the moment that you have to do for those positions.
And well, one thing I wanted to also reiterate is, we talk a lot about how the IUG program saves time and money. Those tuition dollars, you're paying your undergraduate tuition rate for your graduate classes, both the senior year and during the graduate year of study, correct, Stephen?
That is correct. So the graduate school has let us know and notified us that all students that are admitted into IUG programs going forward will be receiving undergraduate tuition for the entire 5 years that they are doing the program. So 4 years of undergrad, 1 year of graduate school, you should be at the undergraduate rate the entire time. So besides saving an entire year of graduate tuition, you then also get to save a couple extra thousands of dollars that year that you are just a master's student, because there is an increase in tuition normally when you jump from being an undergrad student to a graduate student. So besides 1 year, you do get an additional year of benefits financially from doing an IUG program here at Penn State.
Great. Reminder, we're still taking questions, but let's go through, Stephen, just reiterate some of the reasons why someone should choose the MPP and the IUG program.
Sure. So there's a lot of reasons to stay at Penn State. I mean, obviously you chose Penn State for undergrad, so there's some things that hopefully motivated you to come here, at least for your undergraduate degree, that would hopefully transition and make you want to stay for your graduate. But in terms of what we feel are the reasons why you should stay here is one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other policy programs is the specialization flexibility. And even with the IUG program with HPA, as we were talking about earlier in the presentation, you still have opportunities to choose a specialization path even by doing the IUG with HPA. So that flexibility exists for you. The other thing, as Caitlin was talking about, it's a smaller program within a large university. And so you do have access to staff, faculty, and your fellow cohort members on a regular basis. It's a very tight-knit program because we are smaller, but you still have all of the resources that come with being at Penn State. And then finally, you've all heard this as undergrad students, I'm sure, but I'm going to reiterate it one time just because you got to say it. Penn State is the largest active alumni association in the world. And no matter where you go, once you leave here, you have an instant network that you can tap into both for your career and socially. Penn State has alumni chapters in every major city in the United States, in every state, and in the majority of countries across the world. And those resources you can tap into before you even leave here. As Catherine said, we have the career coaching and professional development series that alumni come into to help with, and mentoring as well. Those people are here to help you, whether you're in the program and even once you leave.
And I think Catherine's even tapping into those resources for some of our students right now. Correct, Catherine?
Absolutely. We have a couple of students interested in applying for some very prestigious internships, and it just so happens we have alumni in those organizations to help them understand what it's like to be there. So
yeah, and I'm sure HPA has those resources as well that they often utilize. So another reason to stay with Penn State. So we do, once again, have time for questions, and we welcome those questions, but you can also email us anytime at publicpolicy@psu.edu. Remind you that Stephen answers that email, and he would be happy to set up a one-on-one meeting with you via Zoom, where you can talk more about the program, the IUG programs, ask him questions about curriculum and the application process too. You can also visit our website, publicpolicy.psu.edu. But again, we would love to hear from you. That's what we're here for. Mark, what are some of the reasons that you guys felt that it was a great idea this is the brand new IUG program for HPA, and we're really excited to be launching this with you guys.
Well, I think I mentioned at the very beginning, we have a certain percentage of our graduates that are interested in the policy area, and upon graduation will seek out those kinds of positions. So for us, it was a way of supporting a natural interest. But secondly, as I mentioned, healthcare is policy driven, and we do think there's going to be a growing opportunity for employment for people who have this kind of training, both from understanding the service delivery aspects of healthcare, but also the policies that shape those delivery systems. And so it was just a natural, for us, it was a natural sort of coming together.
I mean, right now with everything that's happening in 2020, we're seeing there's going to be a huge need for people with a health policy understanding, obvious, and expertise. So the students who come away with this degree are going to be very valuable in the job market.
They're going to be very well positioned to get a job. I mean, we have a very good, HPA has a very good placement rate for our graduates, and our graduates who go on for a master's, whether it's in health administration or public health, they do extremely well on the job market. So we don't see any difference here. Once they obtain that extra credential, they're going to be marketable. They're going to end up getting a really good job.
Good. Excellent. Well, we're excited for the partnership to have the IUG program with HPA. And we thank everyone for joining us. If there are no other questions, we want to remind you once again, our website is on the screen and our email address as well. Feel free to follow us on social media. Thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you for tuning in today. We will send a link to the replay of today's presentation as well. But once again, we can't encourage you enough to visit us online and to learn more about the program, to learn more about the MPP program and the IUG programs as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and for watching. Have a great afternoon, and we hope to have you join us in the spring or in the fall. Thanks so much, everybody.